What an incredible time to be alive and playing video games right now. Mario Wonder's out, Spider-Man 2 is out, and they're just incredible games. Super good times. I mean, this year alone, just an incredible year of gaming. One of the best, right up there with 96, 97, that era. I'm just going to say it. Apologies, everyone. I know I've been absent for a while. I'm afraid to even look how long it's been since the last time I uploaded a video. I was not planning to do a media blackout basically for the last few weeks. I've just been busy, even caught up in some family drama stuff. It's kind of worked out now for the most part. Just regular day-to-day stuff. On the upside, I've been walking my dog for like 2 hours almost every day, for like 90 minutes, which has been super healthy and good. So there's a lot of ups and downs, and there's obviously things I want to do and videos I want to make, but I've just largely been distracted. And of course, I still haven't completely solved my computer program. I have ordered a computer. It's not coming till November 8th, I think. And then once that happens and I have a good computer that I can make content on, then I'll be able to publish videos more regularly. I can make an actual pipeline. Right now, I've changed my setup like 3 or 4 times just because I have a computer that's way too old to run Premiere, and even like DaVinci, I think probably is out of the question. But for some reason, Premiere Rush is going to work. So we're going to try that. This video, I'm probably not going to edit. Anyways, get ready because I'm going to keep rambling. I just wanted to force myself to make this video today so that I could just upload something on the channel, anything literally, just because there's just been so many distractions. And if I just like turn my head for a second, then I just don't make a video, and that sucks. And it sucks for me. Obviously, it sucks for all of you at home watching who also want to see good content. I do want to, cover the news, but I also have some other ideas for other types of videos I want to do. I've been talking with a couple of friends about some other things that they might want to do too, and then we might use my channel as a kind of a platform for that, which can be interesting. But yeah, just largely talking vaguely. I wish I'd been more distracted by actual work stuff, honestly. There's been a little bit of that, but, not too much. Anyways, I've missed a lot, right? 2 of the year's biggest video game news stories happened in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the Xbox or Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is done. That's sealed and done. We don't really have to talk about it that much anymore, at least in the context of will it happen, won't it happen? I think there was a pretty good consensus from the very beginning that it was going to happen, and there was a lot of roadblocks along the way. And it's a really interesting path, for where we landed, from where Microsoft started and where they landed, where Ubisoft basically now has the streaming rights of Call of Duty. That's pretty wild. I did not see that one coming. But overall, I think people are thinking like, well, what kind of games are we going to see now from the Activision library perhaps crop up into the Game Pass library? What kind of revisits or remasters? There was a Phil Spencer quote where he said they're looking to do some revisits of games, or they would be open basically to doing it. But, the way that video games are made and the way that the money flows, it would seem like, I think, any project would have to have like a really solid pitch behind it. Somebody would have to be very passionate about some old franchise and like have done some work into it with like some surplus resources or something as, the Call of Duty machine keeps spinning. You can't mess with the money, right? So I don't think that, I don't know, as much as I would love to see, the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 team get that franchise back and start making Tony Hawk games again, I don't think that Microsoft makes a conscious choice to do that without some like crazy stuff going on behind the scenes where people really make the case. I don't think it's that hard of a case to make, honestly, but I'm just saying it's not like we're going to all of a sudden start seeing game announcements, right? That stuff is years down the line, if at all. And it takes time. It all takes time. There's stipulations around Call of Duty coming to Game Pass as well. So at least new Call of Duty games. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. But, one good thing that did come, I saw in an interview with Phil Spencer, was that they're not going to do timed or exclusive DLC anymore, which is like a win. I think that's a net win. And obviously Microsoft probably doing that to appease regulators and to appease the industry at large. But it is like a good guy move. Like that's a net win for consumers who, don't have to pick their platform that they want to play Call of Duty on now based on, it might get, this skin pack or whatever. I don't even know if that's what we're calling them these days. We'll get like this, content with like this famous person or something or on this platform, but not on the other. And so you have to make a platform choice if you're just purely a Call of Duty person, right? I think that's a lousy position to put people in. when they just, all they want to do is like play this game that they love so much. There's probably a lot to talk about there, but interesting stuff. And yeah, finally glad to see the acquisition of Activision Blizzard come to an end. Bobby Kotick is out, I think, starting next year. That's not that far. It's really 2 handfuls of weeks for the most part. So that's really interesting. That's been fun to follow all year and nice to see it conclude. I'm sad that I didn't make a dedicated video about it because it really does feel like a closing of a book, the end of a chapter. Now, the other big news story was all of this, the drama with Unity. In case you missed it, Unity had planned to, or still plans to, charge developers and publishers per install of a Unity game, which is just absolutely bonkers. Again, that is, or not again, but I'll tell you, installing a game is an action that does not produce value, right? Developers don't make money from the install itself. They make it from the purchase, which is why since the beginning of times, publishers and platform holders take a percentage of games purchased on a particular platform, right? They take, the 30/70 cut or whatever, or 50/50 in some cases, or whatever it happens to be. So Unity trying to pull these shenanigans of like, hey, we want to take a tiny piece of every install. It's like really greedy, and it's really short-sighted in a way. I mean, maybe it's long-sighted in that they think if they can get away with it, they can make, millions of dollars on like cell phone game installs or something. But basically they burned the entire community of the game developers who use Unity as a platform. And I think Unity is basically dead. It's not going to be an immediate death. It's probably going to be a slow death as people kind of transition away from using Unity. Essentially, a lot of trust has been burnt, right? And if you were following it, there was just a lot of drama about how Unity's new plans to charge developers per install could put people underwater for games that they have already released and have been successful, right? There's like limitations about, how much money you can make or how many downloads there were before they'd start taking a cut. But still, to change the terms of service after the fact is just completely bonkers. They've completely eradicated any trust that new game developers would have coming to the platform. And it's wild because I know Unity and Unreal are both engines that are taught in schools, right? There didn't used to be game developer schools. There is now. And, for other different fields and stuff too, sometimes these game engines come into play. And they are taught in collegiate programs. And it's crazy to think that now one that's so entrenched like Unity kind of has this backdoor gotcha. And a lot of those policies did get rolled back, and they got dialed back to the extent that they weren't as harmful outright. But it seems like one of those situations where Unity as a company was just going to propose the worst thing and then roll back to a slightly less worse thing so they could say like, hey, look, we're listening. We're going to try and make this work. But the whole concept of charging developers and publishers per install of a game is just wild because there's just so many different ways to break it. Not to mention they didn't have a lot of plans for how they were going to implement that plan by, it was something like 2024. So yeah, just a real garbage fire. Obviously, the CEO of that company has now stepped down, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, John Riccatello, I believe. And we've lost some other CEOs too along the way. I forget the other two at the top of my head, but it was funny to kind of see that oh yeah, he proposed this big change and did all those things, and now he's stepping down, probably with a huge golden parachute where he was kind of the front man of this bad news. And now the investors and shareholders are basically just going to run that thing right into the ground. So if you're a game developer and you're working in Unity, I would distance yourself quickly, as fast as you possibly can. For some people, that's going to be hard. They have big projects that have been years in development, and they still plan to release on Unity and then switch after. For other, game developers like the Among Us team, I think they're switching right away, right? They're just going to dedicate resources to starting to build their game elsewhere and then port it and then, just cut off that Unity vine so they can't get hurt by it after the fact by a change in terms of service, something like that. Just, man, those two stories were massive, and I wanted to talk about them. Sorry, it's on this video with no editing or anything, but I had to get it off my chest and share some of my thoughts about it. Just two completely wild things. And now, of course, we're into this week with Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder. It's such an exciting week for gaming. Obviously, the rest of the world is... It's always hard to be excited about games when world events are terrible. And I don't think it's a crazy take to say man, I really wish people would stop killing each other. That sucks. And that's obviously also an incredible reduction of what's going on in Gaza and all that. I won't get too into it. Obviously, this is a YouTube channel where I just want to talk about game stuff, but that always does weigh on me, and it's why I don't tweet a lot and things, because there's always some type of other thing in the world going on that is probably more important or needs more attention than how I feel about video games or whatever. That's just me. I don't judge anyone who's out there still doing their content grind and whatever. I totally get it. But yeah, just when I've had a lot of time to kind of sit and think and not rush from one thing to the next, not stay up late making content and trying to meet deadlines and stuff, you tend to think a little more inwardly, I think, and outwardly, I guess, about some of that stuff. So, and also not to mention, even within the games industry, things aren't super swell, right? We're still seeing tons of layoffs, companies trying to recession proof themselves. Epic with that 800 person layoff recently. And it's just been industry wide still. With the layoffs, and I think we might even continue to see that go on, despite record sales. If you look at I don't think they're called NPT anymore, but Cirgana also is doing data, and I think GMK is the EU data collection for game sales and stuff like that. The sales are doing great. I think one of the new reports was saying video game sales are up 10% from last year or something like that. And yeah, it's still, game companies are running scared. They're trying to maximize their profits, make the line go up. So they're laying off employees is a safe way to do that. And games media hasn't been safe from it either entirely. So there's a lot of people out there competing for jobs. And yeah, that all sucks, but it's, and it's just a weird transition, but it's still an incredible year for gaming in general. We're just getting some of the best games we've seen in a while. Just top tier stuff. Mario Wonder, great stuff. Spider-Man 2. It's a big AAA game, and I think it's showing its big AAA kind of trappings, but still, an amazing work in the space. So happy to celebrate all of that. But also, everything in context. Stay grounded. I'm hoping to make more videos more consistently. I know I always say that. Hopefully when my new computer comes in the beginning of November, I'll hook it up in a way that I can actually stream. So I'd like to do weekly streams, as well as, transform the way that I make content. Right now, I'm recording through a camera that's recording to an external monitor, and recording audio separately on a different device. And then I got to sandwich all that together. It's not ideal, which is kind of keep me unmotivated from making a big long video or something. And I think there's some scripted stuff that I do want to get to, but that's probably further down the line, or if I even have time to do it. But in the meantime, hang on out there, enjoy your games, have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for listening to me ramble for however long it's been. Forgot what the time code was. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone who's still kind of hanging around. And if you're, checking out this channel or whatever, stay tuned. I will be producing videos more frequently eventually. Once they start coming, then it'll be on a consistent cadence, probably once I get my computer. Until then, I might just shoot some stuff on my phone, just force me to make content. Feel free to leave comments or topics or questions in the comments, and maybe I'll make videos about that. It kind of helps to have a prompt or something like that. Not that there's any shortage of video ideas on my end, but if I see an interest in something, it'd be fun to make videos. Also, once I get my new computer, I do have some really cool capture cards. Something I want to try is doing some slow-mo capture or reinterpretation of footage shot at a high frame rate or recorded at a high frame rate, and then making some cool shorts and things with that. That's going to be a different thing entirely. Just, I could go on for an hour about exciting ideas I have. Eventually, we'll give this YouTube channel a name too, and I'd like to do it in the way, if anyone remembers Skullgirls and the way that they voted in characters that they would work on. I would like to do something like that for a name for this YouTube channel, if we're gonna brand it out. And I'd like to have people come on and make stuff, or possibly have people make stuff, and then use my channel as a platform to kind of publish it. So some interesting things in the works. It's gonna be a little while still though. So again, just thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the comments. Thanks for watching.